All right, diving in today, we're going to unpack this article about Power BI. It really caught my eye, especially thinking about American companies. They're basically swimming in data these days.
Yeah.
For all you CEOs and COOs out there and all you department heads, just imagine if you could get like a clear view of all that data. And not just a view, but an actionable view. And, without needing like a massive IT project to get it. That's what Power BI seems to be promising.
Yeah, you're spot on. So many businesses, especially these huge enterprises, they have these mountains of data, but they can't figure out how to actually use it.
Right. And this article makes a great point about, data silos. I bet a lot of our listeners are dealing with that right now. You've got marketing doing their thing, sales tracking their deals, finances crunching their numbers. But are they actually, talking to each other? Data-wise.
Not always. And that's a huge missed opportunity. Think about it, right? You've got a COO who's trying to assess, how effective was this new product launch? With Power BI, they can connect all this data from the CRM, marketing platforms, even financial systems. It's like getting a full 360-degree view. You just can't get that level of insight when your data's all over the place.
And the article makes it clear that Power BI can connect to practically anything. We're talking Excel sheets, SQL databases, cloud services like Salesforce, all without needing to set up some expensive data warehouse.
Yeah, and that's key for a lot of companies. Those data warehouses, they're just a nightmare to set up. So expensive, so complicated. A lot of departments, especially the ones with smaller budgets, it's just out of reach for them. But with Power BI, they can finally unify all their data without that massive upfront investment.
And the real-time aspect of Power BI that the article keeps talking about, I can see why that would be so appealing, especially for a CEO who needs to have their finger on the pulse.
Absolutely. Imagine this. Instead of waiting for those weekly or monthly reports, the ones that are already outdated by the time you get them, you have a live dashboard. It's showing you all your key performance indicators. And they're updating in real time. That's what Direct Query does. It pulls the data straight from the source, so you always have the most up-to-date insights. For a CFO, for example, who's tracking cash flow, or a sales VP who's monitoring a big deal, that kind of real-time data can be a game changer.
You're constantly monitoring the company's vital signs.
Exactly. And you need that agility in today's business world. Things move so fast. Being able to react quickly to a shift in the market or something your competitor does, that can make or break a company. And real-time data is what lets you do that.
Yeah, the article even mentioned how Power BI can be used to track marketing ROI with incredible accuracy. I'm sure any CMO out there would love to hear that. Yeah, they're always getting asked to justify their budget.
Oh, absolutely. For a long time, measuring marketing effectiveness has been so difficult, it's been basically a guessing game. But with Power BI, you can connect your marketing automation platform to your sales data and actually see which campaigns are actually driving revenue. It takes all the guesswork out of it and lets those marketing leaders make decisions based on real data about how they're going to use their resources.
It's about moving beyond, those vanity metrics, like how many likes and shares you got, and focusing on the things that really matter, like the impact on the bottom line.
Exactly. And that focus on tangible results, it's something that resonates with leaders in every department.
It seems like Power BI is more than just collecting and visualizing data. It's about actually giving people the power to use that data to make better decisions at all levels of the organization.
You're right. For department heads, imagine being able to give your team access to this data that used to be locked away in spreadsheets and reports. And now they can suddenly see it. They can track their own progress, identify areas where they can improve, and contribute to the company's success in a much more meaningful way.
It's like giving everyone a superpower, right? The ability to see the data behind their work and use that to get better results.
And that leads to some pretty incredible outcomes. Teams become more engaged, more productive, more aligned with the company's goals.
And the article even mentioned this too, how Power BI integrates with AI and cloud services. It seems like that opens up a whole new world of possibility.
Oh, it definitely does. Now, not every company is going to be ready to jump into AI analytics right away, but it's important to know that Power BI has that potential. It can grow along with your needs and your ambitions.
It's not just a tool for today. It's an investment in your future data strategy.
Exactly. And for American enterprises, they're facing so much competition and all this rapid technological change. That kind of forward thinking is a huge advantage.
Speaking of competition, I'm kind of curious about how Power BI actually helps companies gain an edge in their market. Can you give us some concrete examples? How are companies actually using it to outperform their competitors?
That's a great question. And it's something that CEOs and COOs are always thinking about. How do we stay ahead of the curve? Let's dig into that a little bit more. Okay, so you want some concrete examples. How are companies using Power BI to beat the competition? Let's take a fast food chain, for example. Those guys, their whole business is about operational efficiency.
It's all about speed, right? And consistency. Every second counts when you've got cars lined up down the street.
Exactly. Now imagine this. This fast food chain, they use Power BI. And they're tracking everything. Order times, inventory levels, even how their employees are performing. They can see which locations are doing the best. They can identify any bottlenecks. They can even predict peak demand times so they can staff accordingly.
Wow, that's some pretty granular detail. I bet that has a big impact on their bottom line.
Oh, absolutely. We could be talking about shaving seconds off their service time, reducing food waste, making sure that every customer has a good experience. In a competitive industry like fast food, those little improvements can make a huge difference.
We were talking before about how Power BI can connect to all kinds of data sources, even things like social media sentiment.
Right.
How could a company use that to their advantage?
And now that's where it gets really interesting. Let's say you've got a company. They make consumer products. They could use Power BI to see what people are saying about their products online. They can spot trends, like what are customers happy about? What are they complaining about? They can even head off a PR crisis before it blows up.
It's like in a constant focus group, but in real time. You're always getting feedback on your brand and your products.
Exactly. And that kind of insight is so valuable. You can make faster decisions about product development, marketing campaigns, even your customer service strategy.
You got to be agile these days. Consumer sentiment can change so quickly.
Absolutely. And it's not just about reacting to what's happening right now. Power BI can also do predictive analytics. You can use it to anticipate trends and make decisions proactively.
The article mentioned that, yeah. Like forecasting sales or identifying customers who are about to churn.
Right.
Can you give us an example of how that works?
Sure. Let's say you're a sauce company. Most of your revenue comes from subscriptions. You can use Power BI to analyze your customer data, see if there are any patterns and why people cancel. And then you can build a model. It'll predict which customers are most likely to churn. That way, your customer success team, they can reach out to those customers before they churn.
So you're not just looking at what happened in the past. You're actually using data to see what's coming.
Exactly. And if you want to stay ahead of the competition, you need to be thinking that way.
This has been really insightful. Thanks for explaining all that.
My pleasure. I think the big takeaway here is data isn't just some byproduct of your business anymore. It's a strategic asset. You can use it to grow your business, optimize your operations, make smarter decisions at every level of the company.
So for all those CEOs and COOs out there and all the department heads, if you're not using data to its full potential, you're falling behind.
Power BI is a way to catch up. It's a powerful tool, but it's also accessible. It can help any company become more data-driven.
Okay, we've covered a lot in this deep dive. But before we wrap things up, there's one more thing about Power BI that I think is really relevant for our listeners today. So we've talked about competitive advantages and everything, but what about the people? This article makes a big point about how Power BI isn't just for data scientists. It's designed for, everyone in the organization.
Right, and that's so important. For a long time, data analysis was this really specialized skill. It was all locked away in the IT department. But Power BI, it kind of democratizes data. It makes it accessible to everybody, from the CEO all the way down to frontline employees.
So it's instead of having a small group of analysts who control all the data and, they create reports and try to interpret everything, you're giving everyone the power to explore the data themselves.
Exactly. Imagine, right? You've got a marketing manager. They can track their campaigns in real time. Or a sales rep. They can see which leads are most likely to close, all based on these data insights. It just makes people more engaged, more productive, and ultimately you get better results.
It's like you're creating a data-driven culture.
Yeah.
Where everyone understands the value of data and they actually know how to use it.
Exactly. And that culture shift, it's a huge competitive advantage on its own. Companies that really embrace data at every level, they're just more agile, more innovative. They're better at adapting to change.
So for any CEOs or COOs out there listening, just implementing Power BI isn't enough. You got to invest in a cultural transformation.
Right. It's about creating an environment where people see data as a good thing, not a burden, where everyone feels like they can use data to help the company succeed.
Well, we've covered a lot today, from the technical side of Power BI to its impact on company culture, and of course, how it gives companies a competitive edge. But as we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
In the business world today, data is the new currency. The companies that can collect data and analyze it and then actually use it, those are the companies that are going to win. And Power BI gives companies a way to do that. It's a powerful tool, but it's also accessible. It can help any company become more data-driven.
It's about taking all that potential, all that power that's hidden in your data, and actually using it to your advantage.
Exactly. It's time for companies to embrace the data revolution.
Well, this has been a really great deep dive. Thanks for joining us.